Okay, I took out these two screws. One went here and one went here. And now I'm lifting off this plate. Okay, next I'm going to take out this screw and this screw. Okay, so those two screws back here are removed. Now, kind of lifting up on this whole plastic thing. I'm going to try to pull that off. Okay, Johnny, we got this part off. So here it is, and you can see in there it's got the little connector pieces. So that's that piece with just the 3 bolts. And then here's the wiring harness that it was connected to. Okay, I just pulled the elbow out. These 2 screws are loose, but back around here on the bottom, there's 2 more band screws. I think that would be these 2 bands down here, but the screws are around the back. I gotta loosen those. Okay, I just pulled that out. It's still in the same direction it was facing when it was on there. That's the back. That's the back. This is the front. So far what I've done is this is where the shift cables were, the upper and the lower. Put the boat in neutral. I removed both of these nuts and pulled off the 2 shift cables. The lower one I've set over here on top of the ends of the spark plug distributors there, whatever those things are called. And now I've pulled the other one up through this hole to make it easier to work on. I pulled out the little pin that was in the black plastic cover and slid that off. And now I'm coming back here to loosen this jam nut, and that should be the last thing before I can pull it out. I am working on a Mercruiser 260 V8 5.7 liter with an Alpha 1 Gen 1 stern drive. And this flapper valve here inside the exhaust manifold, you can see I've already taken the boot off. And this flapper valve was missing when I took the rubber boots off. The pin, this cross pin you see, was still there, but this flapper valve here was actually missing. And I happen to have a 3-inch pipe. Every video I've seen online about this Y valve shows this as being kind of a more oval shaped, like a 4-inch size, and it shows the flapper valves that kind of are 2-sided and they kind of open and close like, I guess, like a mouth. This particular engine is a 1984, and that was not the part that was required for this 3-inch pipe. So I have been trying like crazy to install this thing without dropping the little pieces down into this pipe. And it's a 4-piece, or it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, yeah, there's 4 pieces. The flapper valve itself, this cross pin, and then I don't know if you can see these, but there's these 2, actually they're on the outside. You can't see them because they're in between. This, where it comes up right here, is actually part of the flapper valve, and then in between this pipe and the flapper valve itself is this little tiny rubber gasket that fits over the end of the pin and then into the hole here. And I struggled for a long time trying to figure out how to hold the rubber pin inside the hole without it dropping down in this pipe while I was simultaneously threading this pin across, and I had to hold both rubber feet there. So it finally occurred to me to use some bellows adhesive, and I very carefully put the bellows adhesive around the outside of the rubber pin, being very careful not to get it inside. And this is the old pin. I didn't want it to get inside where this pin goes, because this pin, once it's in the pieces of the rubber gaskets, this has to be able to spin in there. So I was careful not to get glue on the inside of it. And as a matter of fact, even after I put the glue around the outside, I took this old pin and I worked it through in and out and cleaned it off real good and worked it in and out again to make sure there was no glue inside of there. And then I took those rubber pieces, and one at a time, I actually put them on the pin, on this long silver pin first, just to hold it to make sure I didn't drop it in there while I was setting it with the glue. And I pushed one of them in, let it sit there for a few minutes, let it dried up, got a little tacky. And then I pulled the pin out, seated the other rubber piece on this side and stuck that in there. And then I pulled the pin out one more time, and I started on the back side over here, and I held this gasket in place, and I just slowly pushed the pin through. And I still had my hand in here holding these rubbers in place because they weren't obviously 100% glued in place, but at least they were tacky enough that they would stay there. And now I've got that pin pushed all the way through, and you can see that this flapper, when the water comes up through the exhaust, this flapper, if I can get my hand in the right place, let's try this. This flapper will do its thing and open and close as water rushes up in there to prevent water backflowing. So anyways, that's installed, and I hope this video helps somebody. Okay, so I just placed this boot down over the top of the pipe that the flapper valve went in, and I tightened up the bottom clamps, but not the top ones. I might have to loosen those if I didn't push it down far enough, but it was pretty tight getting it on there. But I'm going to put this, I attached the new rubber boot to this elbow. You can see here, I just put that new rubber boot there on the left. Again, tightened up the clamp on the right. That seated itself all the way in. There was a definite stopping point for that. And now I'm going to go ahead and install it up here. I don't think I can keep this video rolling and hold it with one hand, so I'll come back after I got it on. Okay, that was not easy, but I did get that on there. I had to basically I put this part on up here first, and then this pipe right here was not lining up with this rubber boot, so I basically had to take my screwdriver and just stick it in this rubber boot and just kind of, you know, pry it back all the way around and just wiggle this pipe into this rubber boot until it finally fit in there. And once it got started, I was able to just grab this with my hand and the rubber boot with my other hand and just kind of wiggle it until all of a sudden it just popped into place. So now it's just a matter of tightening all these clamps and making sure I keep the clamps in a place where they're easy to access, because when I originally took this off, these clamps were wrapped all the way around the back side, so they're a little bit difficult to get at. So I want to make sure I tighten them in a place that's easy to get at if I need to get to them next time. Okay, so now I'm going to take the gimbal off. I already pulled the screws out of here. I'm going to put all those in a bag so I don't lose them. I'm going to go get the steering wheel turned so it's not turned to one side or the other. Alright, so what I'm working on here is a Alpha One Gen 1 stern drive, and you can see here I've got actually the stern drive pulled off, if you can see that in the camera over here. That's been actually completely worked on, and I've replaced both the upper and the lower there, made sure that all the gearing was correct. And now, after I did all that, I realized that I need to replace the shift cable. Once I got into looking at the shift cable, I reached behind in here and realized that all of the bellows are essentially nothing more than slinkies. In other words, they are cracked at every single area. They're cracked apart, so it's just a giant slinky. So I ordered a new bellows set from SEI, and that arrived yesterday with all the gaskets and clamps in a nice box. So now I'm just going to follow other YouTube videos that I've seen and see if I can figure this out for myself. Hopefully I can get this boat in the water before the summer's over. out, to be honest with you. Not sure what that one's doing. Did I pull that out on this side? Let me see. I'm not sure. Let's see how many screws. No, I did not pull that out on that side. So I'm gonna pause this for just 1 second and go back to the other side and pull out that 6th screw on the bottom. There was 2 big ones, one on top and one on bottom, and then 4 all the way around. So I'll pause this. Okay, so I already pulled off the trim sending unit on this side over here. Come back to this side where I pulled off the top screw and then these 4, but I missed this one here on the bottom. So I'll pull that one out. Make sure I don't lose the nut as well as that little clamp piece there. And I've got all these screws in the bag so I don't lose them. And then the trim sending unit here just pulls off, just kind of hangs by a wire. I've got these bungee cords hanging here just to hold that up out of the way. And I'm gonna take this Ziploc bag, hang it over there. That way I know those screws go with that. Okay, what's next? Now you can see I've already started removing the lower shift cable, and I just bought this this wire at Ace. I got, I think, 7.5 feet of it, and that's what's left hanging out on this side. What I did was I pulled off the shifting, the lever here, pulled that out and pulled the whole inner core of the cable out, and then I just took this wire I bought from Ace, 7.5 feet, and just fed it right back up through the outer core of the shift cable, and it went in really, really easily. And it's sticking out about, I don't know, 1.5 feet up there. And then I just tied it around something metal on the engine so that it wouldn't pull back through. But the next phase of this is going to be to figure out how to get the rest of that out. I did order the special tool that you need. Let me grab that. So here's a bunch of tools I ordered for this project from Amazon. Ordered them a couple days ago, got it today. So one of them is a Mercruiser hinge pin tool. Gimbal bearing seal, because I'm going to replace the gimbal bearing also. And then I got this tool right here, which is a shift cable removal tool. Let's get that out of the bag. Okay. That's what this is. And I guess that's going to slip right over the end of this thing. So let me turn the steering wheel back center now that I've got the shift cable out. And by the way, I'm clearly not a mechanic, and the only reason I know any of what I'm doing is because I've watched 15,000 other people's YouTube videos. So to all of you who have posted videos in the past, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Watching the videos, reading the comments. It's all so helpful in figuring out what to do here. That is just disgustingly greasy in there, which I guess is a good thing. But I gotta figure out how to use this because it's threaded. And not really even sure which end I'm supposed to be using, although looks like not the threaded end. Looks like the, what is it, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 point. Looks like the 6 point end, but if I can get that all the way over there. Oh, there's a massive amount of grease built up in there. So I don't know if I had to put this on a second. All right, I'm gonna pause my video, watch somebody else's video about the right way to use this, and I'll come back. I'm back. So I went and watched a few videos, and just to show you again what I'm using here, this is the bag that this came in from SEI. I actually ordered it through Amazon, but it came from SEI, and this is the actual tool itself. It's got this way, it's like threaded on the inside there. I don't know if you can see the threads, but it's threaded. And then it's got your 6 point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 6 point on the side. So it wasn't immediately clear to me how to use this, but after watching a bunch of other videos that nobody actually showed you how to use it, finally had an epiphany. And so obviously the 6 point end goes inside over the shift cable, over this little jacket and down to where the bolt is. And then I'm using a socket wrench with a 3/4 inch socket, and that actually fits over the top of this, which just was not my initial thought process, but fits perfectly right over the top of that. So I'm going to slide this. I'm actually going to have to go in the boat and pull the shift cable back through so that it's not getting in the way of my socket. So give me just a second to do that, and then we'll come back and pull this off. Towel and wipe that out so I can see what I'm working with. There's a lot of grease and gook buildup in there. Huh. Well, it's definitely not wanting to come out. So I'm going to save my video, turn it off, I'll turn it back on when I've got some progress. Basically, I kept trying to use this shift cable removal tool, but all it kept doing was just slipping around it. I don't know if I've stripped it at this point, or it just won't grasp onto it well enough, or it's just so tight it's not coming out. Regardless, I'm going to set this project aside for the moment, and I'm going to continue to remove the whole gimbal. And I have no idea, but I'm going to probably come in here and just see if I can, once I get the gimbal released, if there's a way that I can force that nut off for the shift cable from the back side, or I'm not sure yet, so we'll see what happens. But now the next thing I'm going to work with is this Mercruiser hinge pin tool. I got this from replacementkits.com. I think SEI probably also sells one, I'm not sure, but looks like that. And that's going to go into that's going to go in right here where I removed the sender. I don't know what that whole thing is called. Again, not a mechanic, just trying to figure this out. But I'm going to open this and give this a go. Hoping I can just cut that shift cable out of there or release it from the back side somehow, because I'd like to leave my wire in place as a guide to run the new shift cable over. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so this is gonna work the same way. It's got the pins that are gonna fit nicely right in there, and then I just gotta go find what size socket this is to put on my socket wrench. So it looks like 1/2 inch is gonna work. So it's gonna go in here, and I might need a longer tool. Make sure that lines up good in there. Wipe this out a little bit too, actually. See what's going on here. Okay. So now I can see that when I turn this, it's forcing this. So I imagine I'm going to have a hard time getting this one off too. We'll see what happens. Make sure that's all the way in there. Okay, I definitely don't want to strip this, so I'm gonna go maybe check an instruction first, make sure I don't break anything here, and I'll be right back to you. I was looking for a breaker bar. I don't have one. I don't know if this is gonna help at all. Probably not, because I need it to stand up like this, the L, so I'm gonna keep looking for one of those. last thing I left off on was I was trying to remove the hinge pin on the port side of the boat, and it just completely stripped. The problem was, and actually let me grab it. So the problem was I bought this hinge pin, and again it looks like this, and it was, when you put these little splines into the hinge pin itself, it was just a little bit sloppy, and ultimately it broke off the I'll call them the splines on the inside of the hinge pin. And if you want to see what the actual hinge pin looks like, it looks like this when you pull it out. This is a brand new one that I just got, but the splines that are inside the top there where this pin fits in, because this was a little bit sloppy in there, it was able to move around. And the reason I know it was sloppy is I went up to my marine store, and they actually had an OEM one, a Mercruiser one, and I took that one and stuck it into the hinge pin that I had already removed, and there was no movement, there was no slop whatsoever. And then I put this one back in, and there was just a slight bit of movement. It was sloppy. So advice, get the original Mercruiser version, not any other version, because you want to make sure this fits exactly perfectly so that you don't strip your hinge pin. So now what I've done is I bought a 11/16 inch, and it's not in the package anymore, it's actually right here on my drill. This is a Cobalt drill bit, and the size is 11/16, which is just slightly smaller than the head of this entire hinge pin. What I'm going to do, and it came in this box right here, I ordered it from Amazon. I could not find this in any of my local stores, even Home Depot, not even Harbor Freight. The only ones that they had came in full kits that were like $175. So I think I paid like, I don't know, maybe $30 for this on Amazon. It came next day with Prime, which was cool. The smallest shank that it came in was a 1/2 inch, which did not fit my regular cordless drill, but I did happen to have this larger corded drill in my garage, and thankfully the 1/2 inch shank fits in there. So now I'm going to put my safety glasses on, and I'm just going to start drilling until the head of this hinge pin pops off. I'm not going to go into the threads because I don't want to wreck the threads, and then I will remove the gimbal housing and or the gimbal itself, and then hopefully I can get the rest of the threads out somehow from the inside. But for right now, I'm just going to start by drilling this sucker out. So here we go. Definitely gonna take a while, just with that little bit of drilling. I mean, it's making a dent in it, but it's gonna be a while before I get it all the way out. Just gonna compare that hole and make sure I'm not actually drilling into the gimbal housing. Let me check what this hole looks like over here. What does that look like? Just a little lip edge right there. Turn this back the other way. By the way, I'm using bags of mulch down here for a cushion. They work great, especially if I spill any oil. I just kind of rip it open and throw some mulch on the driveway to soak it up. So they've been working double duty for me. They're great little padding things, great for soaking up grease. A little more leverage this way. is, but I guess my goal is to just completely obliterate that head until it's not holding this in place anymore. Holy cow. Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm making progress, but man, oh man, it's definitely slow. Taking a rest because it's taking all my energy to keep pushing on this thing. I'm actually pushing my head back against the underside of this ladder just to get more leverage. See what I got so far? Too hard to get back under here. I'm just gonna keep going. Jeez, Pete, this is tough, man. It's holding on. It is definitely digging a hole in it. It's gonna be another little while. Smoking hot. Wonder if I'm supposed to put water in there or something. Might take a little break and look that up. Maybe just let that drill bit cool off for a few. Okay, here's what's going on. So I was drilling, thinking I wasn't making any progress, and what was happening was there was a whole bunch of shavings and gook and grease and everything building up inside of here, so I couldn't really see how far in I drilled. So I took a paper towel and I've cleaned that out real good, and I took kind of a large screwdriver and I just stuck it in there and just turned it around and around to see it's still pulling out shavings and grease and gook and stuff, and I've cleaned it out real good, and now I can see that I actually have cleared all the way back to, it looks like the gimbal housing back here, because if I move this, I don't know, it might be still a little bit of the bolt, but also you can see when I move this, I can see this kind of the outer ring that's left after my drilling. I can see that moving, so I can clearly see what I've done there. What I'm going to try to do is drill into this outer ring a little bit to break it and release it, or I have literally no idea. I guess this is stainless, and I don't know if I can use a chisel and a hammer to break through it, or whatever, but I'm going to try some different things to at least break this ring that's the outer ring of the bolt that I'm trying to get out of there, or the hinge pin, and see if I can start to release that. So, no idea what my plan is, but I'll figure something out. Just move this back over here so I can get in there, and let's see how resourceful I can get here. I think I'm going to start with the drill first and just see if I can drill through it without damaging the gimbal. Working or not. I was trying to put a little bit of just a slight angle and some downward pressure on there. It's pretty thin, but still, it's a hard steel, so I don't think I can do anything with just kind of breaking it out. It's still pretty, just that thin outer ring. Definitely moves a lot when I do this. It seems, it's kind of teasing me because it's like, it looks like a little piece of tin foil, but it's definitely not. Let's see how far in I am here. I don't actually feel like I'm drilled in far enough to have actually released the entire thing. Good progress, but I don't know if what I'm seeing in there is the inside of the bolt moving. I guess it is, because it's still turning. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get some sort of a little I think the problem is the deeper I go into this hinge pin, the core of it is thicker. It looks like the deeper I get in, I haven't quite busted through that core yet. So I think I'm just gonna do just another round of straight in drilling the way I started. Like a chair or something there. Hopefully no mechanics don't have to work in crazy conditions like this, because it's definitely not convenient. I guess we do what we gotta do. Alright, what am I looking at? I'm still looking at bolt. Okay. Yeah, that is still part of the bolt all the way in there. Alright, here we go. The same. Kind of looks the same. What the heck? I mean, at some point you just think this thing has to just bite the dust, right? You would think. I don't know, maybe it's the angle I'm drilling for, but I can't really get another angle. Some progress. This bottom ring here, kind of eaten through that, but it's definitely still there. All right, keep going. I had somebody else here to just hold this drill for a while. I don't want to keep stopping to look. I just want there to be more progress, I think, than there is. I don't know why that wall over there is so much thicker than the rest, but it does help to clean it out. Tell you what, these paper towels been lasting for like 3 days. I don't know why I don't keep going to get another one, but this one just been laying out here. I just keep reusing it. sure this was the easiest way to do it. But I'm all in now. Jesus God. Excuse my language. What the fuck? I mean, somebody said drill this out with a cobalt drill bit. I just figured the cobalt drill bit would drill it out. I mean, I'm making progress, but man. Man, oh man. Okay, so I'm still making progress here. I just went up to the store and bought some of this 3-in-1 oil to put on the drill bit because I feel like it's just burning up a little bit and you're supposed to put some drilling oil on it. So hopefully I didn't wreck the bit already. I am getting through, and I did finally find one spot on the outer ring of that bolt where it kind of broke through. But I'm definitely not done yet. So we'll try some of this oil and see how it works. Okay, so I have spent probably in total of actual drilling time a good hour using this cobalt drill bit. And I've been putting a lot of 3-in-1 oil on it to keep it spinning. But with a total drill time, oh my gosh, I don't know, I'm gonna say like an hour. You can still see that this is still part of that hinge pin. And if I move this, you can see, if I move the gimbal up and down, you can kind of see the hinge pin still turning in there. And this outer ring is still actually part of the hinge pin, that real silvery part. And then this black part in here is kind of like the inside of the threaded part of the hinge pin. And I'm just not able to drill any further in, going further in, or to get kind of this outer ring released. And it's a real thin ring, but I just can't seem to get it done with this bigger drill bit. So what I'm going to try is, I just had these delivered. These are left-hand drill bit, also cobalt, still the cobalt, but they're left-hand and they're a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to try to do is take one of these smaller ones, smaller than the threaded area, so I don't damage the threads. And because it's a reverse one, I'm hoping that as I try to drill into this kind of center core here of the hinge pin, that it will actually release it and pull it out. So I don't know if it's gonna work, but that's what I'm gonna try. Okay, so first thing, I got kind of a smaller drill bit. I'm gonna put some of this 3-in-1 oil on it to keep it from burning up. Okay, and I'm going to try to go straight into the center of that hinge pin. go get a towel to wipe that out. Okay, so I basically have no idea what I'm doing, but I did just use this number 3 drill bit that came in this box and drilled a pretty decent hole through the center of the threads. And now I'm using the corresponding, I guess it's called a screw extractor, right here. You can see it's like tapered, and it also came in this box right next to the drill bit that I used. So you can see the hole next to the drill bit there, kind of put in this kit in pairs. So I'm gonna kind of push that in, kind of even give it a tap to get it nice and tight, and then see if I can turn it real slow, because really I should probably be using a hand tool for this, but because of the drill shank on it, so I don't know. Doesn't really seem like it's biting. So, not sure if that was a useful endeavor. Let's try again. This seems like it's kind of spinning in that. Yeah. So, whatever that drill bit did in that hole there just kind of made it seems like it didn't really work. I need to use a bigger one because I put a pretty small hole. You can see that the hole compared to the size of the hinge pin itself, that whole black circle is the full size of the hinge pin. The hole I put in there is relatively small. So I might need to try a bigger drill bit. Okay, so what I've decided to do is to use a larger bit, and this is actually the number 5. It's the largest one in this kit that I have. So I'm gonna put some oil on here, put my drill in reverse, which is how you use these left-handed drill bits, and let's just see if the drill bit itself will extract this hinge pin. It's drilling into it. You can see it's drilling a bigger hole, but it's not extracting it. Try some more oil on there. It doesn't even want to go in as deep as my smaller hole. My smaller hole went in real easy. This one, not so much. Try again. It's smoking pretty good. Keep putting some oil on here. It's just not really wanting to drill that hole. Whew. And that just does not want to go in there. distractors again. Now this one, kind of weird because the square end on this one is much larger than the square end on the other one, and this one doesn't actually even fit in my drill. So I guess I gotta switch drills or something. Okay, I'm getting ready to remove the bell housing. I'm gonna remove this safety wire first. Oh man, that's tight. Nope, go get a different screwdriver for that. Okay, I'm having trouble unscrewing this trim wire that goes right here. But if I follow it around, it actually goes inside. I'm going to try to remove it here instead. So it goes right up here. So I'm going to try to unscrew that one. Okay, so I'm working on my Alpha 1 Gen 1, and I got my new trim sender kit. So the limit switch and the trim sender. So these are the brand new ones. It's got these half grommets, they call them, right here. And you can see how they're rounded on one side and flat on the other. And once I get the wires put through, I gotta put those together, the two flat sides together, to make like a full circle up in this hole here. So I've got everything removed. I've got the two bolts out, and the little plate that was on there is removed. And I put this just a piece of twine through there when I pulled the old wires out, just to trace the route. So I'm gonna push these back through and see how it goes. Okay, so I just took the two wires. I got the two end pieces hanging here. Just took both sets of wires and pushed them up in through there. And now the next step is to get these two white plastic pieces pushed all the way up so they're seated right up against that hole, and then put the two flat sides of them together so they make a full circle like this. Turn this other way around. You know, put the two flat sides together like that, and then push that up in that hole. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Okay, one thing I just went and checked the directions about. I wasn't sure which one goes on which side of the housing. Like, does this one go on this side or this side? I want to make sure I have that positioned correctly, so when I mate those two flat pieces together, that they're facing the right direction. And right on here, I don't know if you can see that writing on there, but this says on the top of it, kind of stamped into the plastic, this one says, oops, it's upside down. This one says trim sender starboard. You can see the word starboard right down here along the bottom. That goes on the right side. Starboard is the right side. So I put the two white plastic pieces together and pushed them into the hole as far as I could push them back. And then I just kind of sat these down here so they wouldn't hang down and pull it back out. So now I'm going to jump into the engine side of the boat and just pull those wires gently so they're taut, so that there's light pressure from the inside of the boat. Okay, so zooming in on this, right up in there, got the two bolts, 1, 2, put in there with the plate. The wires pulled. There's a little notch on the side of the plate on the left side where the wires slide into, and then this just sits in there tight. I haven't hooked it up on the inside of the boat yet, but to get to those two bolts was kind of a pain. The bottom one was not a big deal. For that one, I bought this little miniature Husky socket set, and I just used this real small socket handle, the 7/16, and the socket handle actually turns 90 degrees, which makes it even easier to get it up in there. Let's see if I can open this and show you. This right here actually bends like that, so that makes it a little easier. The top one, not so easy. That was a pain. And for that one, I just used a 7/16 inch right here. And I just kept going back and forth between this side, and I would flip this over back and forth, and even this one I would flip this back and forth, and I just worked at it real slow, like 1/8 of a turn at a time, until it finally started backing out. I tried every other trick to get different things up in there, and in the end this was the tool that did it and made it work. So I wish I had a shorter one. If I had a shorter 7/16 inch, that would have been, I think, ideal, but I didn't. So anyways, here's where we're at. Next is to install the gimbal seal, the gimbal ring, all that stuff. Okay, that is the new gimbal bearing installed using that tool. Okay, now I'm doing the engine alignment. I've got this greased all the way around, and I'm going to stick it in to the coupler, see if I can turn it with 2 fingers easily, and then pull it out and check the splines. Okay, now it's in, 2 fingers. There we go, no problem. So let's pull it out, check the spline. Okay, there's the spline marks. Let's go this way, all the way around. Looks like on the bottom, so the top is good. When I get to the bottom, I've got spline marks. It looks like there's one spot right there that keeps pulling the grease off. So, I don't know why that is. I'll lower it one more time, I think. I already lowered it, the engine block, just a little bit. Go lower just a little bit more, because the last time I did this, I didn't even have the spline marks on the back. I'm just worried about that one real clear spot right there. I have new grease on the end of the alignment tool. I'm going to put it back into the coupler and see what the splines look like now. Okay, this is the top. Turn into the back. Now I've got, looks like pretty well even splines all the way around. So I have that clear spot now way up there. It's interesting. I can't remember, let me see. So on the clear, I'm gonna try it one more time and see exactly where that was. Okay, I just used some steel wool and some crud cutter that I happen to have around the house, and I cleaned all around the outside to pull off all the old bellows adhesive and around the tops up here to get it nice and clean and smooth, so that the new bellows adhesive will stick well. So that's all cleaned up, and now I'm ready to install the bellows. Okay, so I used the bellows adhesive to install the 2 bellows here. I put the adhesive around the inside of the rubber piece and then around the outside of the metal piece on both of these, and then tighten the clamps. This clamp I was able to tighten with just a regular screwdriver because it's easy access, you can see here. But this clamp back here was more difficult to get at. So I have this Husky socket set, and it's a little tiny Husky set, and it bends 90 degrees like this. So I'm able to bend that, and then I can put it in there and then just turn it a quarter, you know, ratchet it like a, I don't know, a 1/4 inch or even 1/8 of an inch at a time as I'm doing it. So, okay, everything looks good here. And next step is to, well, I've got the shift bellows on here too. Next step is to take this outside and install it on the back of the boat. Okay, so I forgot to video this before I did it, but initially I had just a guide wire hanging out here. It was just a piece of wire that I bought at the hardware store that I'd fished through the inside of my shift cable so that I could route the sheath, this this outer part of the shift cable back in through my boat. So what I did is, first I came out here and I pushed the outer part of the shift cable over that wire that runs into my engine, and then I went into my engine and kind of pulled it through a little bit to make sure I could find it before I set everything. So still connected here. So I've got that kind of just set aside on the inside of the engine, ready to hook up when I get done with this. Then I came back out here on the other side and I put the bellows adhesive around the metal part where this bellows hooks onto, and then on the inside of the shift bellow, and then I've pushed that into place, and now I'm getting ready to tighten down this clamp. Again, I don't have the bendable screwdriver, but I do have this little short socket wrench that I can bend in all sorts of different directions. So I've just got it bent to put it in there, and then I'm just turning it, just kind of quarter turn at a time. Okay, that's where we are so far. Getting ready to put on those pieces there. Okay, so I have the bellow adhesive all the way around the inside of these two. I should have put this one on the engine first and then on here, because I'm not going to be able to get my hand down inside of there to push it on. So I'm going to have to kind of reach up under and through the holes here on the boat to push it on. And then I've got bellow adhesive around the outside of that ring and around the outside of that ring. So as I put it in, I'm going to continue to push that shift cable further into the boat. Now let's get going. Okay, so I tightened all the clamps around the bellows back there on the inside. I had to wait for Amazon to send me one of those bendy screwdrivers. Kind of a pain in the butt, but I got it done. And now I am reinstalling the hinge pins. I kept the little washers that came out originally, and I was able to put those back in there. So you can barely see it. It's just a real thin, I don't know if it's like a thick, like a thin piece of metal or what it is, but anyways, washer in there. So now I'm screwing my hinge pins back in, and then I will set the shift cable and then hook up the trim sender in a minute, and hopefully get this boat in the water this weekend. Okay, so after I got everything put on, I realized that I hadn't tightened down the clamp on the water hose that actually hooks up to this side. So I had already pre-installed it back there and tightened that clamp before I put this housing and the bellows back on. But where the hose, I don't know if you can see it in here, where the hose kind of comes in and then connects on the inside of this right here so that the water comes out here, where the hose comes in and connects, there was a clamp right here that I hadn't tightened down, and unfortunately when I put this all together, that clamp slid back up the water hose and was kind of sitting up here, kind of rubbing against the bellows. So what I did is I kind of made myself a little cushion down here under the boat to lay on, and I sort of propped up the, tilted this upward and stuck this wrench in here to kind of hold it in an upward position. So you can see the wrench that I propped in there just to kind of hold this forward. And then I climbed down underneath here. Get down under here. Look underneath. And you can see, here's the water hose. And there's that clamp. I'll get that out of the way. That clamp right there. And it had been stuck up here, and it was rubbing against this bellows. So I had to just very patiently, with the flathead of a screwdriver, just work it backwards. And then I came way down under here, and the screw, look at that, was pointing straight down at me, and I was able to get up underneath there just with a regular flathead screwdriver and tighten it once I got it pushed all the way up forward to the end of the water hose on the pipe. So pretty excited about that. Next step is to tighten down the hinge pins. I had already kind of ratcheted them in place, but they're not tightened down yet. I didn't have a torque wrench, so I went to O'Reilly's, and for $100 deposit, you can rent this torque wrench from them, and then when you return it, they give you your $100 back. So it's essentially a free rental. So that's great. I've set it to 95 foot-pounds, which is what I learned from the amazing videos over at Pro Wrenching. Thankful to him. He's really the only reason that I was able to reconstruct this whole situation here. So he said 95 foot-pounds, so that's what I'm going to set it at. I'm going to tighten up my hinge pins here and go return this to O'Reilly's and hopefully get this thing in the water this weekend. Hammer wedged in here so I keep it from, so that when I torque down on this can't go down. But let's see, when I'm doing it on this side, I gotta go the opposite direction, I guess. Yeah. So I need it to stop going up, not stop going down. I'm gonna have to move my wedge. Okay, now I remember. So on this side, you don't need a wedge, you need a foot. Push it down. Torque this up. Hopefully my foot can handle 95 foot-pounds of torque. Let's see. Maybe not while I'm holding the camera. I'm going to set the camera down to do this. Okay, next steps. I have put the O-ring for the water hose here. I put a little bit of adhesive on it to help it stick right there. I added the rubber O-ring. I don't know why my camera's so hazy today, but maybe from all that smoke from Canada. I put the rubber O-ring up around in here, and then I greased the rubber O-ring as well as just inside the metal ring right here so that the stern drive will slide in easily. I don't know if you can see there. You can see the grease, the kind of the blue grease there. And then I added the gasket around the edge here. It's this little red circle goes to the right side. And now I'm gonna get ready to add the stern drive. Oh, one other thing I did is I lined up the roller ball and I put grease in there as well and made sure that this is lined up so that's on the roller ball and greased up good. Okay, time to install the stern drive. Okay, so I have done a ton of work on this boat, and I had it all ready to go. I was about to drop it in the water. I was doing the last thing about testing the shifting, and the problem was that the boot and the arm up here were not seating together, and the lower unit was too far down and it wasn't sitting up in the boot to engage the shift unit. So what I found out was that I'm missing a washer that goes over this little thing, underneath this little thing, to keep this from going up and down so much. You can see right here there's play in it. It goes up and down, and it was going down too far. So I've just dropped the lower unit just about, I don't know, what is that, 2-3 inches. I put a strap around it to hold it from going down any further. Got my engine in forward. I'm just gonna take this washer, I'm gonna slide it in here, drop it down over the shift shaft, and there it is. It's dropped down in. It's right over this piece right here. And now I'm gonna re-lower everything on. I gotta make sure that that spline is engaged in forward. So I'm gonna double check and make sure my prop is still in a forward position before I lower everything together. So even though I had my boat in forward when I did this, I must have touched the prop a little bit and it wasn't quite engaged in forward. I had to take pliers and put it on the lower part of the spline shaft there and turn it just literally like a 1/16 of an inch. But once I did that, you can see that I'm pushing it to the left and it's locked. It won't go any more to the left. So I know it's in forward. And now I'm just gonna cinch this back together, maybe even with the help of this strap, and we should be good to go. Okay, so working on a Alpha 1 Gen 1, my shift boot, after I put the lower unit on, when I was shifting, the shift boot, which is way back here on the inside, let's see if I can get a camera in here. So right in here, this piece right here was not sitting up inside this piece. So this lever should push up inside this. This is what this controls the shifting in the lower unit, and this upper piece, this upside down U, is what gets turned when you move the shift cable at the throttle. And if this boot does not sit up inside this piece when it turns, then you're not actually shifting anything. So the problem was, after I put the lower unit back to the upper unit, this was barely up high enough to catch inside. It was kind of sitting like that. You can see all that space on the top up here. And the problem was that there needs to be a washer underneath this. This is the pipe right here that moves up and down. See, I can push it up and down like this. If I push this up and down, it goes in there. The problem was it was only going up about that far and it was barely catching it and it kept slipping out. Well, there needs to be a washer in the lower unit on the shift shaft underneath this boot to push it up higher. So in other words, the washer would sit like my hand is the washer. And I'll show you where the washer goes. The washer goes, here's my lower unit. The washer goes in the lower unit. There's your water pump, there's your spline, and that's the shift shaft right there. And when you turn this, it controls whether you're in forward, neutral, or reverse, and the washer sits on that. I went and bought a washer that I thought would work because it fit over it, but it's too thick, and you can see this one, how thick it is. And here's the actual washer, the smaller one. You can see the difference in the thickness if I hold them like that. So this, the one on the left is an actual Mercruiser part, and the one on the right is just a washer from the hardware store. But you can see the difference in the thickness and the size. The interior hole is exactly the same, so that seems the same. But if I flip them over on the back, this one, the diameter of this one's just a little bit smaller. So anyways, I got this at my local marina. I actually have 2 marinas in my area. One of them had them in stock and one didn't, so I think it's worth getting it. So anyways, I'm gonna put this one aside, I bought from the hardware store. I'll place this one over the shift shaft, and then I'm gonna make sure that I'm still in forward gear before I put this all back together. And I'm gonna do that just by turning this. Sometimes I might have to use a pliers. And if I turn that, let's see, if I turn it this way, the prop should lock in place, but I'm gonna have to put my phone down to do that. Okay, I've just followed your instructions exactly. I'm in forward gear at the throttle, and down here I've got lock in forward position. Come up to back to neutral. And I've got not hearing any ratcheting. Oh, there it goes. So there's a tiny bit of ratcheting happening there. And I go into reverse. I've got lock. come back to neutral. No ratcheting. A little bit of ratcheting. Not a lot, but just a little. And now it's, yeah, just a little at the beginning there. So what I've noticed is in the engine compartment, when I shift it back to neutral, there's just a little bit of play in this piece right here. And I'll bet you right now that even though I've shifted into neutral, I bet you if I push it with my finger, it'll shift forward. I don't know why my video is shaking, but yeah, I was able to move it forward maybe an eighth of an inch. So my question is, to stop that piece from moving forward an eighth of an inch, should I adjust the barrel or should I adjust the slot? Okay, I have completely installed a new shift cable, got everything all set up. You can see that if I grab this prop shaft, I can pull it in and out just like a 1/16 of an inch. I don't know if that's normal. When I push it all the way in, there's no ratcheting. I'm in neutral. If I pull it out just that 1/16 of an inch, you can hear that little bit of ratcheting. So I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if I have to do something. That's the last step before I can put this boat in the water. Okay, there is my prop, and you can see where the grease stops right there. It's actually, that's not the bottom of the shaft, it's just that that's where this piece stopped pushing the grease. So if I kind of spread that out a little bit better, you can see how far in the prop goes. I'm going to take this piece right here, and I'm going to set it on the flat side going in, the raised side facing out. I'm going to slide it down, and I just took this off of here, and it seems like it should go right back where it started, but when I push it all the way in, you can see there's a gap. It's not seating all the way in, and even if I turn this to see if there's a spot where it wants to catch, there's still a gap right here. I can put my finger right in it. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to seat all the way down or not, but it's not, and I don't know why. There's nothing I can do to like push it on there further. Okay, so the little gap I was worried about is normal, and also the play in the prop moving in and out just a little bit is also normal. I've got everything put back together, tightened down, and now I'm going to pump oil up into the drive. He's got the gear oil, 90 weight gear oil. I've got this great little pump. The pump screws right into the oil intake right there. And I'm going to screw this straw on the top of this bucket and just pump it in there until it's full. It'll come out the top up here when it's full, and then I've got the two pins to put back in there to close that up. So I've got this end of the pumping straw screwed in here, and then you can see I've already started pumping oil in through the hose. It doesn't really screw on to this. This piece is a little smaller than this big jug, but I bought the large jug, so that's why, but it doesn't matter, it still works fine. Pumping it, you can see it's already going down, and I know that this drive takes about 2 quarts of oil, so I'll just watch that this kind of meter right here to tell me when I've got about 2 quarts in, and I'll know I'm getting close. At that point, it should start leaking out the top up there, and I'll screw back in the little bolt that goes in both places, and we should be ready to go. Okay, so that's where I got on the jug right there, and you can see that the oil is now leaking out the top each time I pump it. So I'm going to screw this in to finish off the project. Tighten that up, and then I'll remove the pump at the bottom and install that screw, and we should be ready to go. Oh yeah, baby. Okay, I just removed this little piece. The nut was all the way to the far right, and I'm gonna take the screw out just so I can show where it was originally placed. It was originally placed right here, just like that. And then the bolt went in this hole on the right and through this tube. So that's how it was sitting there. Okay, I had to go to O'Reilly's to get this 1 1/4 inch wrench because apparently that's not a standard size tool that people typically have in their tool bench. Nobody in my family had one. I managed to use that to, okay, so this is the steering cable again. Let's see if I can get it better. There's the steering cable. It came from down the side gunnel. Down the side gunnel. Goes around. And the new ones have just a regular large bolt on the end of it. This one has that kind of like cone-shaped bolt, but that is the whole bolt. So I was able to use the large wrench to get my camera angle better, to unscrew this piece. And this whole thing right here is the bolt that was holding it in place. And once I did that, I was able to start pulling it out to the left. But it's so tight over here on the edge, I gotta go clip all the zip ties that it's clipped onto everything else and loosen it from behind the steering wheel before I can finally pull the whole thing out. But I did start to pull it out a little bit. This, I still have the shrink wrap on to keep the leaves and stuff out, but this is behind the steering wheel. I took the panel off that was on there and exposed behind the steering wheel, and this long bar right here is the end piece of the steering cable. You can see it connects here, and then the black cable goes in down along the right side of the gunnel into the back of the boat. So now I'm going to be releasing this part. Okay, so this is the steering cable in the right side gunnel of my boat, and it was zip tied in about 8 places to all the rest of the wires running along here like this. So I just went along with scissors and cut all the zip ties off, and now I'm ready to start pulling it out. Okay, it's out. That is the old steering cable right there. Goes all the way down to here, and that's the part that's supposed to go in and out freely. And there's that crazy bolt that's on this one. I guess that's an old style bolt. It's like a whole cone-shaped thing instead of a regular bolt. But I'm gonna test it, and I think I should be able to grab this, have it pull in and out easily, and I can't do anything with it. It's not going in, it's not going out. Let me grab the new one, see what happens there. Here is the new one. Same kind of similar end here. That goes behind the steering wheel. And then this, look at that. Totally different story. No wonder I can't turn my steering wheel. So that's supposed to happen. And again, if I try it with this one, nothing. It is frozen in place. All right, well, that's the problem. Okay, so I just ran the cable back in through the boat, and there's some splines at the back end of the steering wheel behind the console here, and they don't line up on the old cable the same way they do on the new cable. So I thought I could get away without replacing the center column from the steering wheel, but unfortunately the piece that goes, oh, I already took the cap off. The piece that goes in through here in the center goes with the old steering cable. So I have to take this out, replace it, and put the part in that came with the new steering cable so that all the splines line up so that when I turn the steering wheel, the cable actually itself turns. To get this center cap off, I literally just stuck a screwdriver behind it here where this is, and just kept going around it and prying it until it popped off. Okay, so I just undid those 3 screws that were here. The steering wheel popped off. Then this little washer is separate, so that's going to sit on there when we put it back. When I put it back, I'll just be setting that back up on this column right here, putting the 3 screws back in, and we're back in business. Now let's see what I got to do to remove this piece here. Obviously need to go get, oh no, it's not loose, it's just the whole column is turning. Okay, so now I gotta unscrew this. So here's the problem. I've got this is a 1 inch and it fits on there, but the thing is, you can see if I turn this, the whole column turns, and I really have no leverage to keep this. I mean, I can't just hold it with my hand. My hand's not strong enough to fight against this bolt turning, so I'm gonna go on the back side and see if I can do something to prevent it from turning from the back. Okay, so now I'm on the back side, and the problem is that if I turn the steering wheel, you can watch these splines turn. And now I wish I had left the old steering cable in place and removed the steering wheel first, because the old steering cable was here and stuck, and it would have had the alternating splines, you know, laying this way attached into these, and it would have held it in place while I unscrew it. I've already taken it out and kind of discarded it, and it's long and kind of difficult to move around, so if I can't find another method, I'll bring it back in here and kind of lay it on there. But in the meantime, see if I can just stick a screwdriver in here to prevent it from turning somehow, and then see if that gives me some leverage. So let me work on that. Okay, so at the end of the day, I wasn't able to get anything wedged in there to hold it in place. So this is, again, the old steering cable. Here's the new one that's not installed yet. But you can see it's got the splines, and this spline size is a little different than this one. So that's why I had to put this one back on, because it goes with this steering column. So I just temporarily stuck it back in there. I had to run the wire back through where it goes because it's so stiff you can't really turn it. But I just let it hang out over the edge of the boat there. So anyways, okay, so that should, I just put one bolt in. That should hold it good enough to get leverage on the bolt on the front side of the steering wheel. And I can come back over here and see if I can get this nut off of here. Okay, well, at the end of the day, I had to put two bolts in, kitty corner from each other, one on the bottom left corner and one on the top right corner of the cable on the back, in order to get it to really hold tight in place. And as soon as I did that, you can see it's holding it in place, and I'm able to remove this to get the steering column off. Oh, I'll bet you I have to go back in the back again and remove the steering cable so that I can pull this off. And this is the little tool that I'm using to remove the steering cable, because it's got some star bolts here. So now let's loosen these again. I'll pause the video till I get them out. I'm still not going to be able to pull it out from the front because it's going in two holes. This piece goes in here, and then this piece goes here. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to get something to remove this nut right here, because it looks like it's definitely threaded on there, but this is all one solid piece. I don't know how that comes out. Okay, so this is where I pulled the old steering wheel out of, and if you could see behind this, it's a piece of drywall, but if you could see behind this, there's a smaller hole here, about a 1-inch diameter, and that's what the old mechanism that went through here that holds the steering wheel in place and the steering cable. Unfortunately, I need to drill a 2 1/4 inch hole now to fit this new bezel, and this new bezel has to have a diameter of 2 1/4 inches, but because there's already a hole in the center of this drywall, I cannot use this hole saw to get in there, because the way that it works is you position this in the center and it holds it in place. Like, you put that there and it holds it in place while it spins and cuts through. But since there was just a hole there, I didn't have anything for this to grab onto and hold in place, and this thing was just moving all over the place, and I couldn't get it centered to actually drill in the hole. So what I did is I had a spare piece of drywall sitting around, so I just cut it. I transferred the template of the hole that I need to have on here, and I also transferred the template for where these screw holes go that actually mount this bezel, and you can see the screw holes, if I turn this around the right way, they actually line up exactly with the screw holes that I drilled in there. And so now I know that it will be held exactly in that spot, and I use those screw holes to hold my drywall in place, and now I have a solid piece that can grab this center drill bit to position it so that I can finish drilling the hole through. Okay, so the drywall plan was a good idea, but I'm going to re-explain this because unfortunately the drywall disintegrated before it did its job. So I went and got a piece of plywood, and I again just rubbed grease around the inside of the plate that's going to stick on here to make my center template. That was the easiest way for me to just transfer the circle. and I marked the exact center of the circle, and that's where the center of this drill bit hole saw will focus on. And then I used the metal plate that had the bolt templates, and I just used a pencil marking to mark through the holes where the bolts go, and then drilled those through. And these are the bolts that actually go with the bezel. And I've now bolted the piece of plywood temporarily to the dash so that now I can use the hole saw, and I can use the centering mechanism of the center drill bit to drill through with the hole saw. Once I get the hole drilled, I'll remove the plywood and replace it with the bezel. Woohoo! I think it worked. Okay, I had to stop twice during the process and pick out this, the core that got into the hole saw because it was preventing it from continuing to push through further because this is so deep. You can see it's pretty thick in there. But also this gets really hot, so don't just go touching it to get this core out. I used a screwdriver, I just kind of pushed it up in here. There's my hole. Now I'm gonna back out these bolts, pull off this template piece of plywood, bolt the bezel back on, and I should be good to go.